Good afternoon, and I am so excited to kick off our very first webinar. New season, new team, no problem. It's all about setting yourself up for success for the new season ahead. So my name is Gemma Adams, and I founded Vislink 3 years ago now, but the seed of Vislink was planted about 12 years ago when I had to work with my husband on farm. So when I started on farm, I was a little townie wanting to be a good farmer. So I got on farm with my husband, and he was a born and bred farmer, and his communication skills on farm were a whole lot different than mine. I came from this corporate world of nicey nice, and farmers talk differently because they want to get the job done and they want to get it done right. So I came up with some pads and maps so that we can communicate better on farm. And so what he did is painted a story for me in my head, so if he didn't communicate the right words, then at least I got a really good picture on these pads and maps. And from there, once we had staff, it just grew. So that's when the seed was planted for Vislink. Now, after that, I have just started Vislink 3 years ago now, into a fully grown business. So today we have 4 great guest speakers for you. We have Jana Hocken, we have Kane Brisco, we have Jarred Clode, and we have Pete Turner. And they've all got gold, they're all farmers, so I know you'll relate to them really well. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank some of the people that have come in to give giveaways for this webinar. So we have got Booney Footwear. I love Booney's boots. So they are so comfortable on my feet. I've had 3 knee reconstructions and I love them. So I'm so happy that they've come on board with this webinar. And also, we've got the sock agent. Now, Eva is the most loveliest person. She has also brought products of our Vislink products before and always is a supporter online as well. And these socks are awesome. So for attending our webinar today, we will email you a 20% discount code to go towards our top selling products, which will help you get your season off to a great start. So, are you ready to crack into it? First up, we have Jana Hocken, the lean management expert, who is a dairy farmer down in the Manawatu. She is the author of the Lean Dairy book and is going to speak to us today about lean management and how visual communication goes hand in hand with creating efficiencies on farm. I know you're going to love Jana. Let's crack into it.
Thanks, Gemma. Welcome to this webinar. Hopefully you will enjoy this. I am probably just about as passionate about visual management and visualization as Gemma is. For those who do know Gemma, it's more than you might think. We should put up some nice boards and visualize some information, but it's actually a fundamental management philosophy that is part of the lean management philosophy, and it's used by hundreds, thousands of companies around the world, some very successful companies, as one of their fundamental philosophies of the way that they work. So visualization and visual management is extremely powerful for any type of business, particularly for your farms. And for those who've read my book, The Lean Dairy Farm, you will know that there's a whole chapter based around visual management and visualization, because it is such a key part of the lean philosophy. So I guess for all of you that are coming into a new season, you will have new team members potentially, you'll be on a new farm. And I guess from my perspective, one of the probably biggest benefits to getting the most out of that team and the most out of your new season is to start introducing some of these fantastic visualized tools and using the philosophy around visual management with your team. It will be probably one of the most impactful tools and philosophies that you can introduce to your farm to help both yourself, if you're in a manager or a share milker position or a contract milker position, and also your entire team. And if you're on the webinar today and you're listening and you're a team member, so you might not be in a management position, I would strongly encourage you to talk about this with your management team, with the sharemilker or the manager on your farm, and start to talk about how you can start to use some visualization around information and what you're doing on your farm to be able to help the entire team with the way that they're doing their work and with understanding what needs to be done and where the business is going. So I guess to sort of start, some of you might be asking, well, what is visual management? This word that I keep using. Visual management is about creating a visual system to visualize key information that is vital for your farm business. It's information that is needed by the team on your farm, if you have a team, or by the owner, if it's just an owner-run business, to be able to run the day-to-day operations of your farm, and also to be able to think strategically about your business. So it's all the vital information that you need to be able to operate essentially your farm business. At the moment, for many farmers out there, that information is all in their heads. And you operate your business basically using your head. So you've got a whole heap of information that's bottled in your head that you're using to be able to make decisions and so forth. Now, that's fantastic for you if you're an excellent memory person. However, the fact is that if you do work with more than one person, all those people are relying on trying to pull that information out of your head. And that makes it really difficult. And it is often one of the biggest challenges that I hear on farms. And so it makes it really difficult for the team members to be able to understand really clearly what's needed, why it's needed, how it's going to be done, what the bigger picture is, what the plan is, and those kind of things. So by taking that information out of your head and putting it onto visualized boards or visualized charts, information that's on a wall, on a window, wherever it might be, just so it's visual, it allows the whole team to actually see very clearly into your head, what's been in your head, and actually see it for themselves on a space, on a wall. And if you look at the way that people learn, actually 65% of us are visual learners. That means that 65% of us need to visualize information to be able to understand what is needed and to understand that information. So if you're trying to tell people what is in your head and convert that into some message to get actions or to teach someone something, the chances are that 65% of people won't be doing that very successfully, won't be able to uptake your information very successfully. And therefore, you'll get sometimes a result that you don't expect, whether that's a mistake, whether the cows are in the wrong paddock as a result, the grazing plan hasn't been implemented correctly, the taps haven't been turned off correctly on your vats. There's all these mistakes that start to happen. And a lot of that is because there was misunderstandings. And you can understand, therefore, if 65% need visual information in front of them to be able to understand something, you can start to see why that can be a problem when you're trying to tell people constantly verbally what's in your head. So that's a massive reason why you would want to start to visualize some of the information. And today, some of the people that are listening to this webinar, they might be working only on themselves. So they might not even have a team. It might just be them and their partner. But I tell you what, it's even easier for yourself to operate a successful farm if you take what's in your head, all the clutter that's in your head, and put it up on a wall and start to visualize it. It will take a lot of clutter out of your head, and it will make you feel like you're in much better control of what needs to be done and of your business and where you're going. So visual management can help whether you have a team or you're on your own. Now, so I've talked about, I guess, visual management, that it's a really fundamental key lean tool. And I guess the key around visual management is you need to ensure that whatever you're visualizing, the information that you're visualizing, is the stuff that the team needs to be able to understand what's going on, understand what they need to do, understand what the bigger picture is, what the goals are, what the targets are, etc. The information, when you display it on your wall, whether it's using a visual whiteboard or it's even, flip chart paper or whatever it is, it must be crystal clear. So anybody should be able to walk into that area where your visual information is displayed and see and understand it very quickly. Capture it, basically what I call the 3-second rule. You should be able to understand what the current state is in 3 seconds. So it needs to be visual and crystal clear to anyone. It needs to be understood within 3 seconds. You should be able to grasp the situation of what's going on your farm in 3 seconds. And then the third thing is it needs to be live and updated. So the information, whatever it is that you have on your wall or on your whiteboard, needs to be live and updated so that it is real-time, fact-based information that the team can be using on a daily basis. So I guess the visual management system, what it really does is it enables the entire team to be on the same page at the same time, to be going in the same direction, so following the same goal, rather than having 2 or 3 people going off on tangents. Visual management systems allow everybody to be brought into the one area of central focus where all the key information is, and therefore everyone is going towards the same goal, and they're all on the same page and have the same understanding. So a really, really important something that you really want in your team. If you're wondering why I say something 10 times and I keep getting the wrong result, well, perhaps you need to start introducing some of these kind of systems. If you imagine a team of rowers, I guess I like to compare it to that. If you imagine a team of rowers and you've got 10 people in the rowboat and each person is paddling in a different direction, that's exactly what you get on a normal farm. If you've got a visual management system in place and you've got a team of rowers and they're all paddling exactly in the same way and exactly in the same direction, then you know they're going to achieve their goal or they're going to get to the finish line. So that's a good way to look at how visual management can actually help you. I guess you're going to be getting a new team potentially in this season. Now, if I sort of use different types of examples, but imagine, so you've got a whole new team. It's sort of like, imagine that this team has potentially just joined your new farm as well, or you have gone to a new farm and you've joined a new team. So it's all new people, new farm. You don't know anything about the new business. So imagine the same situation that you were perhaps in a new city. You had to move to a new city and you had to drive through that city and find different things like your new house or the bank or whatever it was. And imagine if that city had absolutely no road signs, had absolutely no street signs, no directions, nothing visual that you can use to direct yourself. And you didn't have any maps and you didn't have Google Maps. Imagine that, and imagine how hard it would be for you to even know where you're going or what to do. You wouldn't. It would be very difficult. What you'd have to do is stop every 5 meters and ask whoever you saw if they can help you. Now, that's exactly what happens in our business. Essentially, if we don't have any visual information, what's going to happen is that our team, every 5 minutes, different people are going to constantly be asking us what they should do or what they need to do, where they need to go or where the cows should be. They're going to be trying to pull information out of your head. And that's not really efficient. It makes it frustrating for you and it makes it frustrating for the entire team. They want to be able to have that map, have those visual street signs so that they can work it out for themselves and know exactly where they need to go in 2 seconds and not have to run around asking people what they need to do. So it's exactly the same thing on our farm business. With a new team coming in, one of my very first jobs when I was 14 in the 1990s was working at McDonald's. Now, McDonald's is a fantastic sort of case study to look at because they're able to operate their business with new people coming in all the time. They operate with kids, essentially. And so kids come in all the time. And those kids have never had any experience. And potentially they're only going to be around for 2 weeks or 2 months or 3 months, right? They're usually casuals. They're not going to be hanging around long. Now, the models that they use and the standardized processes and I guess the visualization that they use in McDonald's is so good that they're able to train those new people up extremely quickly within a day. Or, I'm not sure what the exact timing is, but, very quickly. And what that means is that for however long that young kid is going to be working with them at McDonald's, they're going to be able to get the maximum benefit out of that person. Now, if we apply that to our own farms, because most of us don't have great visualization, everything's in our head, we don't have very good processes, clear visual processes, nothing. What happens is we get new people that join us and we start becoming frustrated because it takes us a very long time to teach these new people how we operate, what we do, the way we do things and so forth. It can perhaps take us a year. And that's because that new person has to constantly pull information out of our head because nothing is visualized. So it makes it very hard for them to learn quickly. And so what that means is we actually don't get benefit out of that person, that new person, for a very long time. So if you are coming into a new season and you want to get maximum benefit out of a new team, you need to start visualizing things so that they can learn much more quickly. And it means that you're going to be able to upskill them, train them with the right information that they need to be able to do the job very well, much more quickly. So what that means is you're going to actually get maximum benefit out of these new people much more quickly from a much shorter time frame, rather than waiting a whole year perhaps and then hoping that they'll stick around, into the next season because you finally trained them, they know what they're doing, so they're going to be great value to your business. Well, why can't you get that value in a much quicker time frame and get that value already as soon as the season starts? And you can by visualizing information and having really structured sessions around that. So that's what I'll talk about next. So it just, I guess all those things that I've just talked about show you the power of visual management and how it can really help you to get your team up to where you need them much more quickly so that you can get the maximum value out of that team as quickly as possible. Now, what you want to be able to do is not only visualize information and have it on a wall somewhere, but you need to also bring the team in and have very structured team sessions around that information. There's no point it just being on a wall and never discussing it or never talking about it, right? So what you want to be able to do is set up some very structured team meetings, and I would recommend absolutely at a minimum once a week. If you've got a new team, particularly if you start the season in June, it's a quiet time of the year, you can have daily stand-up sessions first thing in the morning around your visual board. When you start developing your visual boards and the information, get the team to be involved. This is a fantastic opportunity with a new team coming in. They're going to be able to input the things that they will need to know to be able to do their roles as best as they can. So they'll have valuable input into how to structure your team boards. So get them involved. Start some team meetings around those boards so that you can actually be discussing in a structured way all of the bits of information that you've got on your visual management boards. Once you start doing that, it means that the whole team will have the information they need at a regular interval, and it will be structured so that their whole week ahead is planned and structured. So when they leave that team meeting, we on our farm have ours on a Tuesday morning, first thing. And the reason for that is because we've got 5-day, 2-day rosters. So everyone has a weekend day, which means that sometimes some of the people have their weekends on the Sunday and Monday. So we want the whole team available at our team meeting. So it's on a Tuesday and it's at the start of the week so that we have that whole week coming and everyone knows what needs to be done for the whole week ahead. And so once you have those team meetings, it means that everyone is on the same path, in the same direction. everyone knows exactly what needs to be done, what the priorities are, what the goals are for the farm, who is doing what's the key actions that need to be done, and you can get on with it over that next week. If you have daily stand-ups, it means you can use those 5-minute daily stand-ups to just touch base and make sure, are we on track? Are we on track to achieving our KPIs, or are we on track to achieving the actions that we agreed at the start of this week? So having that structured team meeting approach around those visual management boards is really fundamental. So that's probably the second key step. Set up your visual management boards, but then have a structured team meeting around it. And that's most certainly what we do. Visual management has been the one biggest impact to our farm. We've been running visual management boards and meetings around those boards for about over 3 years. And it's been the one biggest impact that Lean has had probably on our farm, the biggest impact for the team most certainly. And whenever we have a new team member up, basically from day one, they're across everything that's happening on the farm because we've got everything visualised. They know exactly. They don't have to spend 3 months just trying to pull information out of everyone's head to work out what's going on. They have it from day one. And so it makes that learning curve extremely accelerated, which is beneficial for that individual and also for us as a business. So extremely powerful. I guess just to finalise, so once you have your team meetings going, then the last sort of key component of your visual management boards is to be using the data and the information. So at the end of each team meeting, we actually take a photo of the visual management board with all the live updated data, and we take a photo and share it on a WhatsApp group that goes out to the entire team. And that way the team actually have that information in front of them to be able to use. And we keep that as our record so that we've always got a record of all of the information. Our visual management boards, you might want to know what's on our key visual management boards. So we have safety as one of the key things. We have a problem section so people can raise if they've seen any problems or identified any problems on farm. We have a maintenance section. We have an animal health section, so what cows to watch if anyone's seen any potential issue with any cows. Obviously, we have things like our grazing plan, and we also have a massive section on metrics. So our team collect a variety of key metrics for us: quality, production, animal health metrics, safety metrics, and those are tracked on a daily basis, and they're all updated on that visual management board, alongside a whole heap of graphs. So we use graphs to visually, again, track our trends of our metrics, whether the trends are going up or down. And it means that everybody, no matter how junior or senior you are, you all are looking at the same information. So I think that hopefully that's given you some insights into the power of visual management as a lean tool to use on your farms. And I can highly recommend it. It will be a transformation to the way that your team operates, particularly if you want to empower a team and not have to do everything yourself. And good luck in your new season.
Thank you so much, Jana. I love your energy and so much gold information. Like it's just awesome. And to have someone like yourself helping our fellow farmers is just amazing. It's what we need, and it's just really simple. And I loved the note of you can be a solo operator and benefit from visuals as well. You get that thing, like people will say, oh, well, I don't even have a team, it's just me and my husband. And I was like, well, you do have a team and you've still got a head that is full with a lot of information. So that's awesome. Yeah, no, it's really good. And that visual, setting up the visuals and then having that regular meeting. So some take-home messages, like that would be also, like you'd see the power of that, setting up your new systems and having those visual systems and then keeping those meetings consistent. It definitely will help a lot with that new season. That was awesome that we got to hear that from you too, Jana.
No problem, Gemma. I think hopefully people get some good tips out of that, and they have a good start to the new season.
Yes, no, definitely. And just keeping it clear as well. And so those metrics as well is really interesting of putting, as we do the maps and things like that, and we do normally a grazing plan, things like that. But it's really interesting to hear the different metrics that you go into as well, that some people might not have thought of the visuals.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, grazing, so most farmers are reasonably good at having some sort of a grazing plan, although I have seen lots of farmers that have it scribbled up in a little notepad as well, which isn't very helpful either, especially if your handwriting is anything like mine, which is like a doctor's handwriting and no one's going to actually understand it. So having a nice, clear visual grazing plan that's on a whiteboard is a much better idea. But alongside that grazing plan, some really basic data that starts to create a better picture of your farm and the way it operates is things like even the feed ratios. So, you've got a grazing plan, but what does that mean? For new people, they might not understand, well, we're targeting to feed 14 kgs of dry matter of grass, In addition to that, we might be feeding 2 kgs of meal or 2 kgs of maize or something like that. So that's some important information. Now, if your target is to, particularly going into a high peak lactation period, your target might be to be feeding your cows 22 kgs or 24 kgs of dry matter a day. If you can communicate that information and it's visual, people then to start to understand why it's important that this paddock has, enough to feed 16 kgs of dry matter per cow during this time, because the other 8 kilos or other 6 kilos we're using potentially maize or some other supplements in there. But that starts to complete the full picture. So all that information is really valuable to start to visualise so that people every week have an understanding, we've taken out, 2 kilograms of maize because we've got this amount of grass. It starts to help that understanding. Otherwise, people have just this one little component of the bigger picture, and it makes it really difficult for them to understand the context of it all.
Yeah, that's perfect. The transfer of knowledge is that's just the key. And the common thing that I hear on farm is, they just don't use the initiative, things like that. But if you haven't transferred that knowledge, you can't use your initiative. And for example, was someone the other day I was talking to, and they wanted to fix a gate, but they didn't know what was expected, and so they didn't want to use the initiative because they didn't know the overall plan, because no one had told them what was actually going on. So, the transfer of knowledge is so important.
Yeah, extremely powerful. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that 3-second rule. I reckon that's a challenge to set up for some farmers. Like a 3-second rule, could you get a gauge on what's going to happen today? So I think that's a really good.
It's a great way to sort of challenge yourself. And it really, if you stick to a 3-second rule, it starts to tell you, is your data or is your information that you visualize, is it actually visual? Because you might have put sentences of stuff up on a wall, but that doesn't mean it's visual. Someone is going to come up to it and have to read a 2 paragraphs to work out what they need to do, and it still might not be clear and visual. So 3 seconds is, you should be able to drag anyone into your visual management area, and they should be able to understand it in 3 seconds. That shows you that it's then visual and crystal clear.
Yeah, that is awesome. No, that's really cool. Well, thank you so much, Jana. You just give us so much content, and your energy is amazing. And your support has been awesome too. So really appreciate you, and as well as the rest of our team too. Our next guest is Pete Turner, who runs his family sheep and beef farm down in Mossburn. Pete's team is made up of 4 full-time staff members and himself. He's a busy man that is non-stop. So having systems in place that everyone knows what's going on is key to their farm success. So let's crack into it with Pete.
Hi, Gemma. How's things?
Good.
So, just talking about being planned here, I think one of the big things we have for staff is communication. It's really important that everybody's communicating well and are on the same page. So we have a BizLink planner that's got the year planned out. It's a big whiteboard. It's got the months on it with all the days on it. So the key events is writing in the key action ones, and that's when the ram goes out, and of course when lambing starts, and you can start planning the farm around that. The same with deer velveting, and the same with the cattle operation. And you just enter them all on it, and it starts building the year. Then you can start planning backwards, what needs done, or planning forward, and then you can start putting holidays, all those other requirements, R&M around it. We also have on that to-do lists and also stock numbers. So that seems to work reasonably well. We communicate, of course, with RTs, and we also have cell phones as well, because it's important, like RTs, for instance, that you might be after something or going to do something that everybody hears, and one person might know the answer. For instance, looking for a sledgehammer out of the workshop, you don't have to ring everybody. It's on the RT, so they know where it is. And it's also important, I think, that you've got a cell phone that if a staff member gets into trouble, they can call me individually and nobody else hears, even if it's just for the simplest. You might think it's the most dumbest question out, but it's fairly important on a big operation or when you're dealing with stock, because it can lead to a disaster, some little weak question. So that's important. We have maps in various places. I've got one in my office you can see over my right shoulder. We've got 2 blocks here at home, and we have them in the farm office, the stock manager's office. I've got one here, and we've got one in the workshop. And we use them quite extensively for writing on what's happening. So that one behind me, you'll see some blue and red. It's a bit hard to see, but blue and red, so that's winter crop and young grass listed on it, and baleage, so you know the paddocks that are out. Can also, if you're explaining to staff, you've got a big map like that, and you can visually, they can see on that map where stock are to go, or if there's, at present, if we're doing a bit of gravelling or R&M with the digger or stuff, you can actually know exactly where it is and you can highlight it. And then we've got the little map pads, which you can actually drill down into more detail, and they're really valuable. All the staff have got them. We've got them copies in vehicles, so you can just grab one of those map pads and just write on it. If there's a gate that's not hanging properly, or there's stuff to do with the digger or fencing repairs, or even like stock, things that are going to be done with stock and et cetera, that you can just write on them. We use the maps pads quite extensively in the weekend because we don't have everybody working the weekend. We try and have a roster all through the year, and between the stock manager and I, we sort of alternate with the other staff so that they can look at the stock. You can put it on a map for them, and it's in black and white really, and work from there. So that's really the big thing we find is having your season planned out and trying to plan ahead. So you have plan A, and of course you get thrown into plan B with various weather events. And if you've got plan A, you can go to plan B or C, keep going down the alphabet as long as you can get. But sometimes, if your plan, it works out. So that's a bit of a nutshell what we try and do between seasons, and we try and look back at other seasons and see what we've done. The staff that have been here longer, they'll compare from season to season. But one thing that we notice is that no season's ever the same. So that's the advantage of farming. There's quite a bit of variation, and you have to be adaptable on your feet. And if the weather is the same, you can guarantee the economic climates differently. So it's important to keep communicating about selling lambs, selling cattle and deer, etc. And the same with the dairy cows and stuff, is just working through that to make sure that that the physical that everybody's doing is converting into financial, because that's what the bottom line's about, is trying to improve the financials. And if you have improved the financial, it helps out with the physical side of things too. So that's probably a bit of a nutshell of what we think from season to season.
Perfect. That is awesome. Thank you so much, Pete. So yeah, like I learned quite a lot about that. Just planning out your season and you've got one of our big planning boards, which you said you had a bit of a FMG ad that could have been.
Oh yeah, so we had I've got this is my office at home, and the stock manager's got one in his office, and we set up a farm office. Probably something I could have said too is that we've got the maps in the workshop, which is sort of in the centre of the farm, and we normally meet there if we have to meet. But we've set up a farm office where we have staff meetings now with health and safety and all that sort of stuff. And so we've got like these two boards here, there and there, and plus the runoff for the dairy farm that we manage. We've got that there, and I had the big whiteboard in here, but what happened is we're having a staff meeting, and I opened the door and went outside to take a phone call, came back in, it was hot, and they said leave the door open, and then we walked out the other door and left it open. So we had some pet lambs, so they decided to come in and park up residents, and made a bloody mess really. So it was like one of those FMG ads where that guy opens the door and all the sheep are inside really. So we've got a bit of a clean up to do.
Yeah. Oh no, it's a good story anyway.
Yeah, no, well, it happens to everything. You never know it happens, but
yeah. No, that's perfect. And yeah, how you were saying it, how we run complex businesses, and yourself, you're managing 3 different blocks of land, different staff and things like that, and just that simple communication that we can provide in those pads and maps. God, those pads and maps, they are the most popular little thing that anyone, as soon as at field days, if I have someone going past and I want to show them about Vislink, I just put a pad of maps out there and they're like, oh, pad of maps. So it's really cool how you explained that before. Yeah, no, look, I think the maps,
if you want to add some of this in while we're talking, behind the scenes, because you'll be recording all this, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can add a bit in anyway, but one of the important things for us is we have a Monday meeting if we can each Monday morning, so it sets up the week, and that's where we use the map pads and use the planner, and it's really important when we're running different operations. We've got sheep, we've got 2 cattle operations that are sort of run a wee bit separately with bulls and then exotic cattle, and then we've got the deer, and then we've got the runoff. So having those meetings, you cover health and safety, you cover what everybody's doing so everybody knows, and then the communication between everybody works really, and they know what everybody's doing, which is important.
Yeah, exactly. Bringing everyone back to one point, and getting all that information out of your head, Pete, must be kind of chock-a-block up there.
Yeah, it is. We get a bit of a hard time about that, but I mean that's what happens. Your farmer. We've had a bit of we've been home here now for a number of years, and we've got a fair bit of experience before that. So you build it all up, and and that's what you try and do, is try and get that out to the staff. But I mean, the staff have got to be able to be taught. They've got to be motivated, a bit of initiative, and so you need. It's up to them to try and get that information out of people that have been farming for a while, because that's what gives people comfort when the seasons change, because we've never had a season here the same ever. Mm-hmm. And so you draw on what's happened in other seasons out of your brain or out of diaries and stuff to try and help plan forward. And that's the experience staff don't have. They come onto a place, and a lot of staff these days only want to work on a place for 12 months. They don't actually get their full benefit for working for 12 months, because the first 12 months is already learning about a place. It's the second 12 months or the second year that they really start gaining the benefit because they see what happened last year, they see how you did it last year, and then this year it turns up there's a few different variables in how you change that system around to move forward to get the desired results. So, yeah, it's a shame we've got a sort of an employment age group now that only want to stay on a farm for 1 year and move on and try and have about 20 jobs before they can settle down, whereas I think they lose a lot of potential learning from people, and it's just the way society is, so and why it's moving. But it might move back the other way, but that's just the way it is, really.
Yeah, exactly. But for a staff member coming onto your farm and getting all that knowledge that you've put into these maps is such a great way to start as well. So you've already given them quite a good map. So just even if they're mustering different areas or using different gateways, things like that, you've painted them a good picture, and then you've backed it up with your verbal instruction as well, which is pretty powerful for someone starting to put the best foot forward.
Yeah. So I've just gone and leant behind me and grabbed hold of a book we've got. It's got our diary of operations in there. So it's written out. All staff members have access to that. It's got all the people we deal with. It's got, just flicking through it, sheep numbers, air tags, and it's got a heap of maps in it as well that we've got. So the maps, and you've got the water supply marked on there, power lines, et cetera, and you can just fill up. So if something did happen to myself or something like that, that hopefully red folder there would cover a lot of that. A lot of farmers use things called farm max and stuff like that, but it only covers production, whereas this has got a lot of other information in there, who you deal with, and so that's really important folder. This red one we've got here with a heap of maps, and just opened it up, and we've just got what we do with wheat and pears too. We deal with all that sort of financial stuff, but putting it onto a practical analysis for staff, and they can just grab hold of that and have a look. And it's also helpful too for Paula, and if needed to, they've got a fairly good idea how it runs. So you can't run an operation on a piece of paper because the climate and everything changes. But at least if you've got something written out and you've got a plan, it's your fallback position that you can fall back to.
Yeah, definitely. And then you can go and have a bit of a holiday, Pete.
Yeah, well, Corona's stuffed that for us. But you're dead right. I mean, you've got to have a bit of a holiday and stuff occasionally, but we're probably not too good at doing that, but something we can work on. Yeah,
no, that's good. Well, thank you so much, Pete, for joining us today. I've loved working with you, and you're always on the go. Busy man. And so hopefully our products help you heaps, and all the best for your season coming.
No, very good. Thanks, Gemma, and all the best for Vislink. They've done like the maps and stuff. The staff like them, and look, it's been a real benefit for us having those maps, the map pads, and having that planner. I think's really important that it's up there all the time, and people can add to it and take off it on a monthly basis or a weekly, and we're working ahead. So thanks very much, and all the best.
Perfect. Thank you. See you, Pete. Next up, I'd like to welcome Kane Brisco, a local Taranaki dairy farmer who has started Farm Fit, bringing his love for health and fitness to his local community and also to his social media community. Kane runs local boot camps in his area, and also has been known to have a good yarn online about keeping yourself fit physically and mentally, and is a strong believer that these go hand in hand. So let's crack into it with Kane.
Thank you very much, Gemma. A great introduction, and a big thank you to you, I guess, and the team at Vislink for putting this on. Getting a bunch of people and sharing information is such a cool thing to do. So thank you very much for that, and no doubt a lot of people will get some great information and knowledge out of this. So really wanted to talk today about why being proactive with your health and fitness is important for your agriculture business and the team around you. And that was one of the main things for me that I've learned over the years is being proactive and staying on top of things is so much easier than reacting to situations, whether that's on the farm or with your own personal mental or physical health. Be the fence at the top of the cliff rather than the ambulance at the bottom. And something that I've had to remember over the years is we place so much value on, I guess, our farm and our animals, or whatever sort of sector we're in. We place a lot of importance on them, which rightly so, but we forget that we're actually the biggest asset in this whole thing. And after that is the team around you. So remember that you're the most important asset to your business, you're the most important asset to your family, and the people around you are a close second to that. So something that I've had to remind myself of with all the distractions of life and farming, I guess. So we'll crack right into it. So agriculture, as you may know, is one of the most physically and demanding sectors to be involved in. There are very few industries that require such a broad range of movements, strengths, endurance, and sharp mental clarity for such prolonged periods of time. All the while, we deal with stresses and challenges that are often out of our control, and these have a large effect on us, the people around us, and our businesses. So if we look at the current climate, most of the North Island is facing a pretty massive drought. Obviously, with the payout looking like it's going to go down in the dairy sector next year, we're price takers, not givers, setters, sorry. So those two really big stresses are out of our control. So understanding how to incorporate those stresses into our life and deal with those challenges is very unique to the agricultural sector. And there's not a lot, I guess, out there in terms of how to deal with those things. We've just sort of had to make it up as we go along over the years, and we often pay a pretty big price for this. So if I look back on my my sort of journey into health and fitness, I've always been playing sports right throughout my life, but it really hit home how important this was for my farming business. When I went share milking, we went 50-50 share milking 7 years ago, and right into a low payout. I had a brand new family, a young daughter and a wife to support, and we had a mortgage that was big enough to buy a house in Auckland, and probably still is. But at the same time, I retired from rugby and boxing. So it was the first, it was our second season here, the first winter I had off from any sort of physical exercise, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, including all the food and not, having spare time rather than playing footy. I packed on quite a bit of weight, thoroughly enjoyed that. But what followed was probably the hardest season of my life, both physically and mentally. It really quickly became apparent a couple of weeks into spring that I'd made a bit of a mistake, and my lack of fitness, strength, and agility really was making the day-to-day grind very difficult, unlike anything I'd experienced before. But it also had a really big impact on my energy levels. I was just knackered all the time. I wasn't motivated, so it was starting to affect my mindset, and how I was feeling about myself and the farm and the situation, and really, really impacted my decision making. I wasn't clear in my thought processes. I struggled to make those important decisions, and under fatigue, you make worse decisions generally. So it really affected my ability not only as a farmer but as a dad and a husband. All aspects of my life sort of were being affected by my lack of energy out on the farm and at home. Near the end of that season, I told myself that I'd never do that again. But through sport and exercise, I obviously got back into it. I sort of remembered how to reconnect with my purpose. When you play sport, to be any sort of successful, you need to have a really good understanding of your purpose, why you're doing it, why you enjoy it. So I used those lessons to reconnect to, I guess, why I was farming. And you really have to have a good understanding of your purpose to be a farmer. And I'll leave you with, if if you don't understand your purpose and vision, your team's never going to understand it either. So it's really important to get that buy-in from your team by first understanding it yourself, and then being able to communicate that clearly and consistently with your team. So investing in your health and fitness is also investing in your business, farm, family, and friends. And I'm going to ask the question, should farmers have a pre-season like a sports team does? And this was a really important question I asked myself a few years ago, and was pretty crucial in deciding to take FarmFit into an actual presence in the community. So we often have the least demanding period of the farming season, followed swiftly by the busiest season of calving, lambing, planting, and mating. So we have this massive rest period where, I don't know about you, but in the winter, I generally stay inside a lot more, as much as possible. I stay out of the cold and rain as much as possible. We eat a lot of food, or I do anyway. So we have this big period of rest, and our bodies get deconditioned. And that's what I found when I retired from playing sport, was I just turned into a bit of a lump. And, you know, you got to ask ourselves, are we setting ourselves up to have success when calving starts, or, you know, and being in front of the game and hitting the ground running? Or do we set ourselves up to make things a lot more difficult? And that was certainly what I found. It's far easier to hit the ground running than to try and get fit through spring. You know, once you actually get fit, spring's just about done and dusted. So you've just done it the hard way rather than the easy way. So as you will know, and I certainly know, physical training will reduce our risk of injury and accident. Conditioned bodies are far more resilient to the stress and fatigue and complicated movements that as farmers we perform on a daily basis. And I don't think we give enough credit to ourselves for how physically demanding the job is compared to other sectors. This will also lead to increased energy levels and clear thought processes, which is extremely important when you're running a business. You know, we're running multi-million dollar businesses with lots of people involved. So we need to be on top of our game. We need to turn up every day and be able to operate effectively and efficiently. As well as that, physical exercise has a plethora of benefits, increasing your stamina and cardiovascular endurance, correcting and developing good posture and movement patterns, relief from common injuries. You know, put your hand up if you've had a lower back injury. Most farmers, I think, have or will. And a lot of that is due to our movement patterns or muscle imbalances. So we can avoid a lot of that. And also some chronic health conditions. You know, farmers are pretty renowned for having high blood pressure and that sort of thing, and even type 2 diabetes is becoming pretty prevalent. These are all things that we can be proactive about and try and prevent, because if we're out of action, our business will suffer too. And a big thing for me is the release of stress and frustrations. Being able to step away from the farm and engage in an activity or a community to give yourself a mental break. You know, taking some of those stress and frustrations out of our stress bucket and putting them into our happiness bucket, I guess, to fill that up is sort of a non-negotiable for me now. It's just become a part of our daily or weekly life that we always prioritize ourselves by doing those things we enjoy, and at the same time we might as well get some physical benefits out of it. That's sort of how I see it. Why not make the job easier at the same time? And so we go on to the definition of general fitness is your capacity to carry out daily tasks with ease. So getting back to that idea that if we can physically do the job easier, it makes everything around the mental side of it become easier too. If you're not fatigued from physically going out and chasing calves around and lifting stuff and throwing stuff around and all that sort of jazz, you're going to have a lot more energy. You're going to be thinking clearer, you're going to be less stressed, and you're going to make those decisions and be able to communicate with your team a lot more effectively. So how does our well-being affect those around us? Obviously, farming's a team game. So how we are sort of sets the tone for everyone around you. And as team leaders, your energy and communication and character set the tone for everything. So if we're really energetic and passionate, if we communicate effectively, we're setting the bar, and it's really easy for the rest of our team to come up and meet us at that. But if we're down and flat, we're not effectively communicating, we're struggling to make decisions, we're becoming stressed, and showing that, and not being able to, I guess, do our job effectively, the people around us really pick up on that, and they start to panic. You see that in rugby teams. Classic example, if you look back to the World Cups we lost, I think 2007 being a good one, people just panicked and didn't know where to look, and it's exactly the same in a business. So it's really important to turn up for your team on the farm every day and operate effectively. Your physical and mental ability is what dictates a lot of your daily success. So paying attention to what you consume in all aspects is paramount to having success on the farm. So when I talk about consuming, I'm talking more than just what we eat and drink, although that is important. I'm talking about what we watch, what we listen to, what we surround ourselves, I guess, in a personal level, what we consume on social media, and also how we listen to ourselves, what our inner thoughts are telling us, how we talk about ourselves is really important to our mental and physical health. So it's really important we're aware of what we're consuming in our private lives, I guess. So physical, I guess, training and that has really taught me about what my mind and body are capable of, how I perform under pressure and fatigue, and through that, it's really given me an understanding of the people around me as well, and how they deal with challenges coming at them. Once you sort of figure yourself out, you can then go and start figuring other people out. And that's something we've definitely noticed at boot camp early on was, I guess, how the older generation that come along actually take on challenges. You can tell they've had a lot in their life. They've dealt with a lot. They've had that practice. They know how to deal with getting outside their comfort zone. Whereas I think particularly my generation and younger, so the new people in your team may not. So it's really important that you understand how you deal with things, and then understand how they react, and what sort of the best way for them to deal with things is, and you can sort of guide them on that and help them on that journey once you understand yourself. So for me, physical activity, I've obviously built a lot of self-confidence, particularly with when I took up boxing. I became something and somebody I wasn't before. It changed my whole mindset and gave me a lot of self-belief. And it also pushed me well outside my comfort zone. And that's often what we see through physical exercise and training, is once in a while it's great to get outside your comfort zone, just like I'm doing with this little webinar. It's well outside my comfort zone, but it's helping me build my character. You sort of need to break yourself down a little bit to build stronger. So that is totally linked between our physical and mental states. So what grows our body also grows our mind. So that's something to be aware of, that they're both very much linked. And there are other ways to do it, but a lot of people do find that pushing themselves physically outside their comfort zone, doing something different, definitely makes them a bit stronger in the top 2 inches. And I would encourage everyone that has a team to, first of all, look at themselves and understand what your strengths and weaknesses are. Understand your character, but then also do it with your team. as an example, for myself, there's certain things we can do to give ourselves energy, certain strengths we use. So for me, I really like growth. I've got a sort of a growth mindset, so I love learning and developing. That really excites me when I'm about to learn something new, or when I'm growing my mental resilience and that sort of thing. That excites me. I get really energized by that. I can go from sitting on the couch feeling like I need to sleep for 5 hours to jumping up and feeling like I can do anything. So understand some of the things that give you energy. Another one for me is just taking action. I feel energized by that. And for other people, it'll be something completely different. You might have someone in your team that loves organizing. They're really excited by that, believe it or not. Probably Gemma is one of those, I would imagine. So organizing things and having structure is really energizing for them. So understanding those dynamics in your team and getting people to or letting people utilize those energies is really important to their success. And just on that, be really aware of the people around you. If you're in a good state and you're physically well and mentally well, be aware of anyone in your team or family that may be retreating or disengaging in the work environment. That's often a classic sign when we're overstressed or we've run out of sort of resilience. We withdraw and try and protect ourselves. So be aware of that. Once people come under the pump, if they start disengaging, I think every probably farmer's said at some stage they've got a staff member that just doesn't seem to care. It's probably more than that. So really have that open communication with them and understand what's really going on, what stresses they have in their life are causing them to disengage. And I've got the 3 A's, which is something I've sort of thought of over the last few years in terms of mental well-being, is acknowledge, accept, and action. And this is talking about any emotions and stresses. So the first thing that really helps me is acknowledging what I'm feeling, understanding that, and acknowledging what's actually causing those stresses or emotions. Getting to the root cause is really important. Never stop asking why. Then accepting them. I went through a period of farming where I didn't accept the circumstances I was in. I sort of tried to fight it or blame others. You actually got to take the onus, particularly as farm leaders, and I presume I'm talking to mainly, small business owners and farm owners, that you actually have to accept what's happening to you, and then stepping back, and having a good bird's eye view of the situation so that you can then step in and take action and do something about it. And being able to communicate that, showing a little bit of vulnerability about what's going on, but then communicating that with everyone around you is really important. So if you're being honest about how you are, if you're not being honest about how you really are or what's happening, other people in your team won't be honest back. You need to show that vulnerability first for others to then show their vulnerability to you, and then you have that open communication that is so important. So what does health and fitness look like, and how do we fit it in, which is the hard question, because we are busy people. So there's a couple of key elements for this, and the first one I'm going to talk about is bang for buck. We are busy people, so it's important that we understand that small things can have a big difference, and then identifying what those small things are. First one, if you talk to any athlete or anyone in the fitness industry, sleep is so important to your performance. I can't emphasize that enough. It is how your body recovers. It'll do 1,000 times more than any detox tea or a coffee will ever do. It is super important that we're getting a good night's sleep for you and everyone in your team. That is the number one. So make sure that that's happening, and if it's not happening, do something about it. Take action on that. Food, I'm not going to get too deep into this, but it's important what you're feeding yourself is good for your body. There's good ways to go about it. drinking cans of V is not a sustainable way to give yourself energy. Something that's often overlooked is water and electrolytes. Really delved into this with running, but you don't underestimate how much you sweat in the spring, even though it's cold. When you have layers on, and particularly warm layers, whether you wear thermals or not, and leggings and stuff like that, you will sweat a lot. I know I certainly do anyway. So it's important that you really replenish that with water and electrolytes. Unless you have high blood pressure, adding a bit of salt into your diet or unless you eat lots of McDonald's, adding some salt into your diet is probably a good idea. Sodium is really important for a lot of bodily functions, and water is too. You just feel a shitload better. I can just guarantee it. So don't clear out the whole cupboard. I guess when we look at health and fitness and nutrition, don't clear out the whole cupboard and make big wholesale changes. It very rarely works. So start with small chunks. Don't try and do too much at one time. So I try and identify those parts of your life where you can make some small changes to get a good result. Your daily activity is probably more important than having hour-long training sessions all the time. I just try and incorporate some specific things that are going to help me through spring into my daily activity, but just in general, living an active life will help with your fitness. Have an understanding of some of the physical things, I guess, that you might struggle with and those in your team might struggle with, and then you can actually work on identifying them, understanding them, and fixing them up. So it's all about making some small adjustments to fuel our minds and bodies better. Time is the second one. It is really hard to structure it in sometimes, but I sort of schedule it like I would a meeting, making it a priority, and it doesn't have to be a lot. So we get the compound factor of small daily chunks. I guess if you can fit in 20 or 30 minutes 4 times a week for something that you enjoy, whether it's an actual sport, whether it's just following a training plan, and often something that's else that's overlooked is actually breathing. The two most living things, if you're feeling a bit shit, feeling a bit down, the two most living things you can do is one is breathe. So pay attention to how you're breathing. You can actually muster up some energy by breathing properly, and relax the whole system. There's a lot of research behind that. And the second one is moving. We're meant to move. We have to breathe. And we're built to move. So utilizing those two things to look after your mental and physical health. Don't skip those out. Breathing's really important. If you look at the All Blacks, when they're under pressure, first thing they do is they come into a huddle and they breathe. Really important to fact, I guess, of going out of the changing between those two nervous systems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. Breathing is a really, really good tool that anybody can do to do that. That'll also help your decision making. Plan and communicate, and this is something I've seen Gemma coming up with a home planner whiteboard. Give you a little plug there. You've got to be able to plan and communicate effectively, and that's a really good tool to be able to do that with your family at home and also with your team on the farm. That helps your time management. It helps create that time to get off the farm or schedule in those things that are going to fill your cup up, and make sure that your plans are realistic and adaptable. You don't have to be militarian about it. If you skip a session or something, just know that it's not the end of the world and you can schedule it in tomorrow or make some time later. Adjust your health and fitness to suit your life, whatever that may look like. And for a lot of people, that'll take a lot of time and some experimenting to find the right fit for you and your team and your family. So take some time experimenting with some different things, finding things you enjoy. No one ever goes out for their first run and enjoys it. I can, guarantee that no matter how good at running you are or how fit you are, it takes some time to get to a level where you enjoy it. So don't give up. And that goes for all aspects of life, whatever that may be. And I tend to look at, trying to, for me, I guess it's a habit now. But I think we often lump habits as good or bad. But I tend to look at it as we have habits that take us closer to what we want to achieve and habits that take us further away. So have a look at your daily habits and identify what habits are taking you closer to what you want to achieve or your purpose or vision, and what ones are holding you back from that. So those are the two different ways to look at habits, and we get to choose that path, whatever path we want to take. So I'll leave you with, hopefully I've convinced you that investing in yourself is choosing to invest in everyone around you. And I can't, I guess, reiterate that enough, that being proactive about your health and your team's health, whether it be mental or physical, is so much better and so important for developing a strong farm team. So again, thank you very much. And look forward to hopefully some questions after that. Cheers.
Hey, Kane, wow, that was amazing. All that gold content, and I absolutely loved hearing about it. There's just so much stuff in there that makes complete sense, and it's awesome to have someone like you that can connect with our fellow farmers. You've worked out so many different things that make so much sense. One thing, definitely that rugby gap. Terry went through exactly that same thing of like, what do I do now? You can see exactly that he didn't know what to do. So he did get into running as well. And it helped so much because he was happier. All those endorphins were going around. So he was
absolutely. And it's common theme.
Yeah,
you got to replace it with something, but it's also keeping you fit for that busy time of the year. Yeah,
definitely. No, that's cool. And I love the idea of that fill up your cup planner. That's a good one. See it already. It was awesome. And knowing your purpose, it's just so important. So some of the take-home messages, I've written literally a whole page from here because it was really neat to hear. And like consuming what you're watching, who you're around, it's so important. Like, you have so many different influences around you. It might be social media, things like that, things that are going to lift you up. I found that really awesome.
We often sort of just consume a lot just by default. We don't actually realise it until you step back and analyse what you're doing with your time and what you are actually watching. It sort of just happens upon your own.
Yeah, no, definitely. And putting the people first as well, and leading from the top. That's just, if your energy is coming in there and the right thing. Obviously, you hear some farmers that just can't handle staff. I hate staff, and it's not the staff, is it? It's just it's just
not always the staff. Yeah.
No, that's how they're
creating an environment where people want to achieve and help you with your vision is the key, isn't it?
Exactly, and the sacrifices that they're making to come and work for you as well. I always think Terry and I were 50-50 sharemilkers, so we've got a 3 to 5 year contract. So people that are coming to work for us, they generally have a year contract. Now they have to transition all that stuff, and it might be that they take that risk of a year. And so if we're not going to look after them or be good to them, it really winds me up when people can't see the sacrifices that the staff are making.
Yeah. No one likes shifting houses.
So in the sleep side of it, definitely, that's
hugely important.
Big sleeper.
I get asked a lot what to do for recovery and how to de-stress and that, and sleep's that's our body's time to repair itself mentally and physically, so super important.
Yeah, no, definitely. The other thing as well is that pre-season challenge. I reckon we should put the challenge out there, Kane, to everyone out there to get themselves ready and put their rugby head or whatever sport they were into head on to challenge people to get themselves set up. So whether it's planning systems, mentally ready, physically ready, so that they are going to have their best start for the new season.
Absolutely, yeah. You've got to go in with a game plan, and it's going to be interesting this year with people not being able to play sport. A few farmers might actually, struggle going into spring more than they normally would, like I did.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they might have to start running up those hills on the farm.
That's it.
Thank you so much, Kane, and that was really awesome. So we'll put links to Kane Farm Fit, so you can see some of his stuff. And he's on Instagram. I watch him on Instagram. He motivates me to do my morning rituals, and so check him out. He's always uplifting and awesome guy to have around. So
thanks for having me. Sure.
See you later, Kane. Bye.
See ya.
Our last speaker today's webinar is Jarred Clode, who manages operations for Tihoe Farms in Bulls. The dairy team for Tihoe Farms is made up of 6 in the springtime and 4 full-time staff throughout the season. To manage a size team effectively, a lot of importance has been put on having good systems and communications. There are Vislink custom whiteboards. He purchased them 2 years ago and has made such a difference to his team, which he's done an awesome video for us as well. So let's crack into it with Jarred.
Yeah, hi, my name's Jarred Clode. I manage a large dairy unit for Tihoe Farms. As Gemma said, we have up to 6 employees working for us during the spring. Which is quite a large team. So a lot of cows calving, lots of calves on the ground, some busy days. But that can only happen with good procedures in place, like good systems. And as I've outlined in another video once, we did purchase a whiteboard from Vislink, from Gemma and her team 2 years ago. Since we purchased that, we've used that to every week when we have team meetings. Every Monday we have a team meeting. We sit around and the 2IC will always do a pasture walk weekly, and then we reassess our covers for the week, and we as a team work out we'll have our certain round length, and then as a team we will sit down and write down the paddocks we're going to be grazing for the week and for the next few days. But in times of the year like that can change depending on your growth rates and when you want to take silage out and stuff. But the Pacific board we've got is quite a good layout. It's got our whole farm map on it. And I just recommended to Gemma that at the bottom of it I wanted like all the paddocks listed, and then because coming from down in Canterbury where we had some good systems down there, sort of a similar system where it was just always frustrating when you've got 2 herds on a big farm and in the afternoon, your afternoon shift's quite busy, like you're looking at going for cows at 1:30. So there's a lot that's got to happen in that time, and it's just making sure that that person on cows has got fences set up, because in spring you could be setting up 5 to 6 reels in an afternoon. You've got your milkers, costrums, and any other dry cow mobs on farm. So we all sit down, look at the board, and then point to the map. And on the map, after I've explained to staff where we want to put reels up, I'll even just double check with them. I'll even call the junior up to look at the board, and I'll just ask him, right, can you point out on this map where you'd have to put the brake fence up? And he should be able to do that. So that's quite important that they can do that. And it's also for them in the team meetings that they can communicate back to me and point out any hazards on farm. And when the hazards are there, we can outline where they are, highlight them on the map, and enforce those hazards, whether we need to action them or implement what we'll do to avoid those hazards. But yeah, with the whole board, it's just a clear way with instructions and having the staff that understand. Also for the new seasons too, like we've been quite lucky here in the last couple of years, we've retained a really good team, but that hasn't came easy. you know, at the start we've had to enforce like good. So each employee, I think it's beneficial for them to, anyone new coming onto a farm has like received a new employee information pack about the farm, and in that it can be an image of the farm map, which is like our whiteboard version of the map, key contacts and phone numbers of anyone important, all those important communication lines for staff that they can refer back to if they get stuck. But once again, yeah, those maps are really a really effective way for our farm. It's helped our farm quite a lot. I'm also in the process at the moment with Gemma on trying to come up with a hazard board design, because health and safety is quite big on our farm as well, and we have to list all the near misses and incidents. I'm just trying to think of a board, and she's given me some ideas where I can have that on the wall next to the map and have all the hazards, and we can do the action and enforce each week, and then even any other stuff we want on the board as well. So it's definitely a good chance in team meetings when you've got all your staff there to really hone in on what's on those boards, and just even asking them the questions back on what you've just explained them and what's what on the board. But having everything outlined on the board is really good because they can see the whole farm from a bird's eye view. And I think new staff as well actually learn the farm better and quicker if they can see a new board, because some farms, some staff go to, there's not even any farm maps available. And, you know, it's quite daunting for a dairy assistant to start a new job on a new farm. And, you know, he's a lot expected of him. Like, he's trying to figure his way around the farm, learn all the equipment, learn all their routines. But if there's not a good sufficient map available that he understands, it's going to be quite hard for him. So definitely important that those maps are quite clear, and there's so much you can put on those maps. Like for us, we've got a 9-span pivot that puts out the effluent, and on a map it's so well done that we actually had our towers highlighted. It's got like the circle towers on the map, but the ones that can hold the effluent gun are actually highlighted a different colour. So you can actually, when you're pointing out with staff, you can see which paddocks that effluent's going to hit by looking at the map and seeing what lines those effluent's going to go over and what paddocks it's going to run over. So you can tie that into your whole grazing plan as well, which works really good for us. So, but yeah, for now, I think that's about it for me on that sort of explanation on our board and new season, new start. So
perfect. Jarred, that is awesome. Do you know your planner that you've got, the little grazing grid that you've got? We've been asked to do that for so many other people's boards. Actually, yesterday, someone was like, "I love that, like that grazing plan." So, and it works really well.
Really?
Yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's hard to try and think how to, because it's just hard to, it's so good, but it's hard to think that to try to get across the points of it.
Yes, yeah. No, it is. There's so many people like, oh, yeah, I'm going to use that. So, no, it's been really good. Those Monday meetings, they're just so important, and creating that hub in your cow shed. And we're lucky as dairy farmers that we do have a point where we have to go to every morning. And you've got that hub for that meeting with your staff. It's just such a great way, especially when the amount of staff that you're running.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, it's quite pleasing as well. After we've had those meetings, the whole staff leave the room and they understand. So
Yeah, exactly. And it's just letting them know, planting all that information in your head so everyone knows, yeah.
But to have a farm of our size, because obviously all up our platform over here is 400 hectares, so we peak milk 1,040 cows on that, and then run 250 R1s. So that's all one map, but there's certain parts of the map that we keep separate. So it's real good for explaining where you want certain animals moved to, and especially how the map's in such good detail. We've even got our water troughs in exactly the right points on the map. So for instance, there's some paddocks where there's 4 troughs, so it's quite easy. I can just know straight away. I'll be like, right, I want that reel in between the second and third trough, and I know they can't really muck that up.
Yeah, No, that's just...
And we know, yeah.
No, yeah, exactly that. Just clear communication, eh? And that's what I think anyone, they deserve that, to come onto a farm and have some clear communication, because as I said before, like, no one comes on to a farm to bugger up, make the farm owner's day a misery. Like, when they first sign up for a job, they have not come to just be a nuisance. So it's that clear communication that we need to provide. So yeah, and we've loved working with you, Jarred. You're just such an awesome guy, and thank you so much. So Jarred did this video off his own back of our whiteboard the other day, because we couldn't go to the field days, and he just wanted to show people how much he valued his whiteboard. And honestly, our whole team, so our whole small team, myself, Pauline and Tessa, we were just so grateful that you took that time to do that. So thank you so much.
No, that's all good. And yeah, one last thing on that for new staff as well is I think a lot of sort of probably more old school employers as well, probably as a new employee, they are, as I said before, expected a lot. So I think a lot of people, if you haven't got the patience to, and you haven't got a good mat and communication around stuff, that is an easy area for staff to go and do something you don't want them to go and do, or put a reel in the wrong spot because it's not clear enough where you want it. Like, I think there would be around the country a lot of farms where old mate employer will just say to his new guy, "Oh, just head down the lane, second paddock on the left and halve it." And for us, we know that because we've been farming it for a few years, but it's these young guys that just will not. And these days, it's just, and communication is more important, because unfortunately these days the young guys just won't pick it up as quick if you haven't written it all down and explained it probably 3 times. So yeah. Yeah, no, that's so true. Just painting that picture. So someone summed it up the other day about storytelling in a visual way. And I remember a guy who was like, "Oh, I just told that guy to take the palm kernel down there, and I want him to go through this gateway. And you remember when the gateway was yellow, but it's actually not yellow now." And it's just this random, like, they think that they're saying the right things, and they just don't understand why people aren't getting it. So simple tools, and I think that's why it works so well, is that it's just a piece of paper. It's no technology, a lot of technology in behind that piece of paper, but it's simple. So it's just pointing to that. So if you've got limited verbal communication skills, then you can give them that picture so that they can see that picture, and then use some of your verbal skills too, but it's creating a better plan for them, and that safety blanket. So someone can take that with them, be independent for half the day because they've got their jobs there. Farm owner feels happy because he's confident that he's explained the right job. So yeah, no, it's pretty passionate about it. And I'm glad you are too, Jarred. Yeah, and it just means everyone, the new employee can go home without feeling bad, and the employee can go home without feeling bad that he yelled at his guy on his first day. So yeah, exactly, and we don't want that. So yeah. So, no. Well, thank you so much, and all the best for your new season coming. And I look forward to working with you later. Yeah, no, sounds good. Thanks very much. Cheers, Gemma. Thanks, Jarred. See ya. Wow, what awesome guest speakers we had today. Thank you so much to our guest speakers. All that information I know is going to help you heaps with the new season ahead. Now, also thank you to all of our Vislink team that have helped us put this together. Tessa has been home on lockdown with 3 little kids and helping heaps with this webinar, so I really appreciate her, as well as Pauline. So Pauline is our accounts manager. If we've got Vislink clients out there, I'm sure you've worked with Pauline before, and she is a lovely person that absolutely loves what we're doing as well. So thank you. And all our designers, as well as Jordan is doing all our digital marketing, and he's done an amazing job and helped us heaps. So we really appreciate that. And thank you to you for taking the time to invest in yourself, to invest in your team for the new season. We are super grateful that you've come to join us, and hopefully you've got a lot of information out of today's webinar. So
what I want is for you guys to take action. Like, we've had a lot of information here today, and we need to be able to take action on some of this information. So write one thing down today that you will put into action to make next season better and going forward. Now write other things down that you want for the new season as well. So for me, I was thinking, I loved what Kane was saying about water hydration. So our guys in spring, they like to milk the cows and go out onto the farm and get the cows and calves in. But they haven't had water for such a long time. So we have to think about things like that. So simple little things like that we can bring into our team for the new season ahead, I think is very important. And so think about it yourself and put it into action. Also, Tessa is writing up all the key points from the guest speakers today. So we're going to have a little takeaway sheet, which she'll send out to you too. So you've got some awesome content and information there that you can put into practice. So sorry if you've been writing down notes today. We will still send you that out too. So at least you've written it down so you'll remember it in your head now, eh? So if you need to know more about Vislink products, so you'll get 20% off our products. We haven't talked about all the different products we've got, but what I like to do is, if you give me a call, I can talk to you about your farm. I want to learn about your farm and what your needs are. So it might be that you're having trouble with a drenching program at the moment, so let me think and our team think about a solution that's going to help you. So it might be that we do a grid whiteboard and make some custom magnets. It might be that your business is moving into a digital space, or you've got lots of metrics that you need to analyze. So we might go into an interactive screen. It might be that you really want those pads and maps and you want to identify your hazards, so you've got something to give to people. And it also might be that you do farm walks. You might have people coming onto your farm doing different walks, things like that. So just let me know about your farm. You can either call me, message us, or email us. So we'd love to hear from you. So, winner, chicken dinner. Let's have a look who the winner is. So we have done random number selection from everyone that's registered, and we have had amazing amount of people registering for this. So number 7 has been pulled out from the random number. So I'll just get the results. Renee Halliday is the winner of the Boonie boots and also the Sock Agent socks. So you are going to have a cracker of a season, especially we've been loving our socks at the moment. And I don't know if you've seen some of the behind the scenes. My kids got into all the socks. So Renee, you are definitely getting a fresh pair of socks, and Eva, she will be sending that out to you. So if you could let us know your sizing and message us, and we'll message you as well. So thank you so much. Now for us, this is our first webinar. We also want to know your feedback. We want to know how we can improve to make it better for you. So if you could give us feedback, that'd be awesome. So how we're going to do this is we've got three questions, and we're going to rank it out of 5. It's literally just ticking poor, 1, 5 for best, and we just want you to just tick that. And if you want to give us more feedback from that would be really grateful. We just want to hear more how we can improve going forth. So once again, go forth and have a cracker of a season.